right, so good morning, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to another thrilling broadcast with us here at Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants. We've got a really familiar crowd today. You guys are some of my all-time favorite teachers joining us in broadcasts all the time, so a big welcome back to all of you. Today really epitomizes what we're all about. My colleague Joe is hanging out in Salvador, Brazil, talking with the Darwin 200 crew. Our second program I'll highlight in a minute. We've got a very special speaker joining us today. And then after this, we've got an eclipse chaser, a French program live from the mountain parks talking about butterflies, and we wrap up the day at the Toronto Zoo. So all told, I think it's like 4,000 kids joining us around the world for 5 incredible programs. A big thank you to all of you as we continue to showcase and celebrate the coolest scientists and explorers on planet Earth. Now today, I am so thrilled to welcome back in the midst of one of the busiest periods of her entire life. So a big thank you to Dominique for carving out time for us today. One of the coolest conservationists on planet Earth. Dominique Gonçalves gets to work to protect elephants in Gorongosa National Park in Mozambique. A lot of our students, you might be familiar with Kenya, South Africa, Egypt. These are the places that sort of reach across the sea here to sort of highlight sort of the diversity of Africa. Mozambique is a place that a lot of people haven't heard of, but it's one of the most special and unique spots on planet Earth. And Dominique does incredible community conservation work to protect one of the great animals on this planet, the elephant. So I'm so excited. We've got such a great audience today to hear about her incredible journey and her incredible work. You're in for such a treat, and I can't wait for all your questions at the end. So without further ado, Dominique, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to join us again. We really appreciate you being here.
Hey, thank you. Thank you for having me again. Hello, everyone. I'm super excited, always happy to come and talk to you all. And thank you for coming and listening to me. And should I start?
Oh, you are good to go. Yes, it's all queued up.
So today, for those of you who haven't heard about what I do much or my work, I work with elephants, as Jesse said. And today I'd like to bring you this little treat, but thinking and a mind frame of what we need to do to actually protect and preserve the elephants. So I would say we need to coexist to preserve. And I bring here some teachings from this massive, amazing animal. So elephants, I see if this place, yep. I work with the African savanna elephant. So elephants are distincted in 3 species. There's the Asian elephant, and there's 2 African elephants. One is the forest elephant, and the other one is the savanna elephant. And the part of the world where I'm from and I work is the savanna, the African savanna elephant, Loxodonta africana. So elephants in everywhere where they are where they live, they are keystone or engineer species because they're so massive. They eat so much. They walk to so many long distances that as they eat a lot, about 3 tons or whatever, 300 times a day, they weight or size per day in leaves and seeds, and they walk massive distance. They actually spread around all those seeds. So they are gardeners. They maintain the ecosystems where they live the way they are. So this is why we call them engineers or keystone species. However, this beautiful, majestic species has been under threat, and there's many things. The threats to elephants are dynamic, which means that they change over time, but some have been there for ages, some are new, some come and go and it never change, some are changing. For example, one of the most famous threats will be, for example, the ivory poaching. Elephants have those 2 massive tusks. In African savanna elephants, both male and females have massive tusks, which are made of ivory. But ivory are just like the same material as is our hair or our nails. And so, it's just different structure in an elephant. But there's been so much demand for it that elephants have been previously still being killed and persecuted for the ivory that represents a high value in certain parts of the world and in certain cultures. And the other threats that I will expand more about this would be, for example, the destruction or fragmentation of the habitat, and therefore also human-elephant conflict. And because elephants are so big and they reproduce quite slowly, for example, a cow, a female elephant, might have 1 baby at an interval of 2 to 4 years. So, which means with so much killing of the elephants, there's not really enough time for the population to be coming back efficiently as it should be to maintain a viable population and a viable ecosystem we depend on. And unfortunately, this is happening a lot in a lot of places. Elephant populations are reducing. Historically, some places almost got wiped out of elephant population. The population almost got wiped out. Others not so much. Others, we still see signs of it. And one of those places is Mozambique in Gorongosa National Park. I am from Mozambique, so as you can see in this map, Mozambique, as Jesse said, is perhaps not really well known in terms of African countries, but it is what we call the pearl of the Indian Ocean. And you can see we just by Zimbabwe, South Africa, the Indian Ocean, and the massive Madagascar island in the east. And Gorongosa National Park, located right in the center of Mozambique, in Falun province, from it is the national park that the Great Rift Valley comes down all the way from Kenya and in a floods of the Gorongosa National Park. So that is the southernmost point of the Rift Valley. In this place, Gorongosa used to be known in the 60s, a long time ago, as one of the jewels of Africa. But then we also had a lot of war, a civil. First we have independence war against the colonialism, against the Portuguese, and then we had a civil war where we fought for 16 years. And during that time, Gorongosa National Park was like a battlefield, one of the highest ones. And as in many places where there's war, people suffer, but also wildlife suffered. And in Gorongosa and in Mozambique in general was not different. In Gorongosa, we lost about 90% of our large mammals, including elephants. For example, elephants that were about 2,500 spreading across the landscape, then by the end of the war were reduced to less than 200. If you can see in this very old photo, this is like soldiers that were holding a massive tusk of an elephant. These tusks were then, elephants were shot for their ivory, and these tusks were then traded for weapons and then food and everything else that the armies needed to keep going and fighting. So not only elephants, many others, but today we're focusing on elephants. However, not all the bad things stay for long. Hopefully, when there's good willing and things change. So we had peace, and that was in 1992. And then in 2008, our government wanted to restore our national pride, our national parks, after also taking care of people. And they signed this public-private agreement with the Carr Foundation, which is a US-based NGO, and they started with the restoration of the Gorongosa project. Since then, the park has been more safer, healthier, the habitats and the people around, and also the species are growing. For example, elephants now are coming back. Now we have more than 1,000 elephants. So it was in 2018 that when I finished my master's, I started the Gorongosa Elephant Ecology Project. To be honest with you, when I finished, before I was learning about behavior with one of the most amazing elephant behaviors, this lady called Joyce Paul, and she told me a lot about elephants. She told me how to identify elephants by just looking at their faces. So I would say that I know some individuals very well. I can see some elephants and say, this is, for example, this one in the picture that I'm looking at, that's Iria, and I know her because of that notch on her left ear. That is a kind of outstanding notch. You might not be able to see from this point, but then there's also a little hole in there, and I know that her tail, she's missing hairs in her tail, for example. So these are the little things that I would learn to do with Joyce, and also reading their behavior. For example, you may see that there's a little one there with the trunk up, which is doing a periscope sniffing, which is a normal behavior when people or something new is around. So it's basically wondering what is happening in the hair. So with the Elephant Ecology Project, I started in 2018. Some of the activities I'll do is ground monitoring. So trying to find elephants, and I would find a group and I'll hang around them and try not to be chased away and in a respectful distance. And I would record who is there with who, what is it doing, are they playing, are they eating, are they resting, where they going to, who did what, did the matriarchal lead female did anything different. And not only that, but I would also set a lot of camera traps to try to, to have a better assessment of this recovering elephant population, not only in Gorongosa per se, but in other areas adjacent to the park that would also have a viable elephant population. So, for example, here is a little, a little group of pictures that I put together from camera traps from this place that we call C12. So I see there's some new individuals. I don't know these individuals very well yet because the only time I've seen them is on camera. And, as the cameras keep bringing the same pictures of same individuals in different places and angles, then I can create a database, putting, for example, decide to give a name to this one or a different one. Well, you can see that some of these females actually don't have tusks. And that is what we found out recently. That is a trait that it came after that intense heavy poaching that happened in those past years in the population. So many females now don't show tusks. But this is only one of the things that I do in the Elephant Ecology Project. And you notice that elephants are matriarchal, right? So which means that the females or the mothers or aunties or grandmas, they are the ones who lead the way. They pass their knowledge of places where to go, where to find food or drink or water or shade or things that they need from the environment to the youngest. So they pass, all the skills and their behaviors and their knowledge to the youngest. So the youngs really learn from the old ones. And in a fast place such as Gorongosa, we need to remember that it's not only important to keep the place clean and healthy and protected for elephants, but we also have people around us. So there's a lot of people who have been there before and people who moved there during the war and after, trying to find a place to live when everything was destroyed. And as the elephant population has been growing, so is the people or human population around the park. And you might think that living next to elephants might be very cool. It is, but at the same time, it is very, very challenging, and it's not always happy, either for the elephant or for the people. For example, what may happen is that it has people who live near protected areas, such as the park, around near the river, etc. These areas have very fertile soils, and has in Mozambique, in my country, most of the people are still subsistence farmers. Means that what they produce is what they use then to sell, and with the money they can pay school or healthcare and everything that they need to pay for, and also feed their families. So they really rely on agriculture. And one of the biggest crops that they would put is corn or maize and pumpkins and cassava, seeds, and other things. But elephants, especially elephants, do love corn and sweet potatoes and other things, pumpkins, put in our crop. Because that actually has been proven that so really helps the male elephants to boost their body, boost their energy, so they can actually fight and win over a female, so they can reproduce. What does that mean is that as the people are so close to these elephants and the elephants are close to people, sometimes they can have negative interactions. For example, as you can see in this photo, and this time it was really early in the day, and this group of 5 elephants actually crossed the river, left the park, crossed the river, and went to this crop area and this family. And as elephants, they're so big that even if they don't eat the maize or anything, just by passing by or hanging around, they might destroy a lot of crops. And that creates really a huge burden and a huge, it brings a lot of economic insecurity to the families. It gives a lot of prejudice in the family. So This is what we call the human-elephant conflict. Can you see it in these pictures? There is a picture of a dung or an elephant poop, a very fresh one, and you can see the corner around this. And you see this picture, I didn't take this picture in the farm itself. I didn't take this picture in the buffer zone. I took this picture near the lake, inside the park, in the middle of the park, meaning that these elephants would go all the way from the middle of the park all the way to the communities and back and forth, eating, enjoying what the park has, and also the crops from the communities. So this is when we decided to start the coloring elephants, and we needed to understand this movement, this dynamic. Why were elephants living, and how long were the elephants walking from one point to the other? So yes, to better understand these movements, I start to put GPS satellite collars on lead females or lead elephants, male or females of each group. So would scout them in a helicopter, use an helicopter, and fly around either the limits of the park or the community, and we would find perhaps an elephant and a group that I would say this is a lead female that we could put a collar, and there's many safety reasons, safety criteria that we have to check before deciding to put a collar or not on an elephant. And then we would add really quickly, we would the vet would then shoot anesthesia to the elephant. So the elephant, after a few minutes, would fall asleep and really sleep really well. And in that short period of time, about 40 minutes, we would rush and do everything we needed, such as put the collar. This is me, for example, collecting some dung, fresh dung samples. I will collecting blood, and I'll do all the measures of the tusks and the shoulder height and the back of the elephant. Everything I would have to monitor and record, because this is a huge opportunity to be so close to this amazing animal. What the animal is asleep, so you can really touch it and studying it even more. And then when all is done, we would wake her up after we're all out in a safety spot, and then we'll see that the elephant is reacting well. She has now her new collar, and from that moment that elephant wakes up, we can see where she goes, and he goes, where they go, and what they're doing, and how long they're staying. And knowing where elephants are is just help us to really better protect them, the habitats, and the people. And with all that data, for example, the GPS collars data would give me data every hour. I'll receive a GPS position of where the elephant is. And with that, we would be able to track, that's the real tracking, the real-time tracking, and seeing where they're going, what they're doing. And we would then start to ask many more questions and answer many more. And with all that, we'll start helping, supporting coexistence. For example, we found out the areas or the routes that elephants were taking into the community. So based on this folklore that elephants are very afraid of bees, and this idea was tested in Kenya actually, and we started closing these areas of the entrance of the community with beehives, fences. So these fences, as you can see, they're just beehives in there, and the bees will be in the hive. And if an elephant approaches, and because the area is all closed and linked, so they would shake the hives, and that would really agitate the bees and the heat, or at night, and the bees would come out, and the worst case scenario, they would sting the elephant, and the elephant would run away. But many times the stinging was not even necessary. For example, just the buzz, there's already been seen and proved and everything, just that buzz of the bees is enough for the elephants to run away from it, from the tree or from the hive of anything. You must think, well, elephants must have very pretty thick skin. Yes, they do, but they also have very sensitive parts in their body, the eyes, the trunk, the belly. And African honeybees can be very difficult. And so we're using a lot of beehives, which is a beautiful idea. Not only protect the farms, keeping the elephants at bay, but also the farmers get that sweet reward, which is honey from their beehives. And these beehive fences are taken care by all the women and men from the communities where they are set. So it really shows us how, working with nature and in collaboration, we can actually make a lot of things, good things happen. And the third, and perhaps one of the most close to my heart as well, the thing that I do with the Elephant Ecology Project is to support girls' education with the Role Models Initiative. So in rural places in Mozambique, in my country, most of these rural places, girls sometimes they leave school really early, on the age of 12 or 13, and they get into premature weddings or marriages, and they drop school and they start a family, and etc. As you can see, this is a big problem, and we're working towards, reducing and stopping that, and we want to encourage girls to stay at school. The reasons why this happened, one might say is cultural, but it's also very, very linked to poverty and not having the means to keep studying. So some parents would think that perhaps marrying her off when she gets to the age of, a woman, so then someone is already taking care of them. So in Gorongosa, we have the Girls Club, which is an after-school program that really help us are trying to keep and retain girls in school. So the girls that go to school in the morning and afternoon go to the club, and vice versa. And this club, they learn a lot of things. They learn how to improve their literacy, numeracy, but also women's rights and entrepreneurship, many things. So I used to visit these clubs, and I used to be the only one visiting and share my story, how I also, the challenges I faced and how I managed to get education, etc. But then I found out that I could perhaps do something more and bring many of my other colleagues and women who also do amazing work like I do in the same place to these girls. So my inspiration actually came from visiting some schools in the States when I went there, and the kids knew everything about what I did, and they had so many questions. They were way more open and dynamic. So I realized that they were way more open and dynamic because they studied, they learned about me before I went there. So I created this role models brochure. And this brochure, each page, as you can see, is like highlights women from a different department in the park, women who are doing, many things. For example, Janado over there, she is a journalist, and Cecilia, she's a manager. So there's many women in the brochure, and this in their pages, they will tell their story, their biography, and they will give advice and explain what they do in their work. And with that, I really hope that all these girls and some boys as well that are now part of the club, they can really see with their eyes, what all the different paths they can take in future, and all the different professions they can, they can pursue, and with that help, create a better place not only for them, but also for all the wildlife, especially elephants. And after they study about all the different women in the brochure, then these amazing women actually visit them in the club, or they visit them in the place of work. For example, this is Diolinda. Diolinda is an ornithologist. She studied birds, and she is in the brochure. So the kids really studied about her. And then one day she showed up in the club, and they were just, very happy as well to see her, and they were then able to ask the questions they wanted to Diolinda about her work and her story, and spend time with her. So it's really like seeing from, this interaction really is like seeing from someone you can relate with what you can become. It's like seeing a role model, and you deciding what you want to do in your future. And with that, I want to say thank you, and thank you for listening to me. I hope you have a lot of questions, because I only scratched the surface of everything I do. And this beautiful picture, for example, I was coloring elephants in the buffer zone, the troublemakers that were out in the community eating the maize. And nearby there was this school, but when they heard the helicopter, because the people there already know what, we inform them when we're about to do the coloring for safety reasons. So the teachers took some kids to watch from far, but then all these girls were just waiting there for me and to come and talk and touch the elephant as well. So we took this lovely picture in a buffer zone with these girls that were just in school. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Dominique. And what an amazing presentation as always. Some of the best footage of anything that we ever feature. If you want to come out of screen share, I don't know if you can see us right now, but please do feel free to come where you can catch us for a conversation. That is, talk about a cool experience for a classroom. Like you're a student and you get to go and be involved in a helicopter's just landed in a collared elephant. I mean, it's hard to beat that for amazing in the world. So thank you for sharing all your stories, and we're going to dive in with a big Q&A now. So I'm going to head to Mr. Shattuck's class first. They're joining us in Deep River, Ontario, 5-6. If you guys want to kick us off with a question, come on in. Hey.
How tall are the elephants?
Ooh, how tall are they, Dominique?
Oh, I wish I knew exactly the number, whatever. But what I used to say is that they can be as high as a basketball. At the basketing and a basketball pitch, for example. The ones that have been measured during the coloring, the tallest I measured once was 4.5 meters. So that's really high. And that was a massive and old bull. So the shortest I've measured was 2.8 meters. So it can really range, I think, from that. And of course, depending of the age of the elephant.
I mean, they really are massive. I hope our students get the chance to see an elephant in the wild. Ideally, it's still one of the most memorable experiences of my life.
Yeah.
You have to go to an accredited zoo and see one there. It changes you to see an elephant in person. It's a really special experience. So great question, man. Miss Collins, Miss Darling's class, we're going to head to Rhinebeck, New York. If you guys have a question for us, come on up. Hey.
Hi. How many beehives are at the farm?
Ooh.
Great question. So the beehives are not really in the farm. In Kenya, and where they started it, yes, they put it around the farm. But in Gorongosa buffer zone, the farms are not all together. So it's very difficult to put beehives around every farm because there's also a lot of, in terms of safety for people, because bees can also hurt people if they get annoyed. So the beehives are actually in certain entry points to the community. So in total, I would say we have all the beehive fences in different points around the buffer zone. I'd say we have almost 600 beehives.
The elephants and bee stories, I used to, when I introduced you, I would say that in the beginning, and now I just like to leave it as a surprise because it's one of the coolest things I've ever heard in conservation. It's such a neat idea. It's so amazing, and the video is so spectacular. So thanks for that question, New York. Ms. Z's class, Southside, we're going to head to Bristol, Connecticut. I am coming to everyone, I promise. Don't worry. But come on in and take us away, Southside. Hi. Unmute your mic. Hey.
Come on up and ask your question. Go ahead. Hey. No, right there, honey. Go right up to here. Okay, read your question.
Oh, you muted it.
Go ahead.
Does the collar hurt their neck?
Oh, great question.
Oh, good question. Oh, thank you for that question. No, it doesn't. The collars are made in a way that it should not hurt the individual or the animal. The analogy that I normally use is it's like us wearing a watch, for example. So the weight is really proportional for what we as a world can carry, without being uncomfortable. So that is the same way for the elephant. For example, a lion collar will be way smaller, way less heavier for a lion than that for the elephant. It depends on which species you're collaring. Yeah.
Every time we have collaring in any broadcast, someone asks this question,
Yeah.
and it's so sweet. I love that all you kids are so interested in animal welfare. That's amazing. So good for you. We're going to head to Gems World Academy. Next, Mr. Hancock, Ms. Hurley, I'm coming to you, and then we're going to take a few from our YouTube teachers as well. But come on in Chicago, folks. Welcome in. Hi.
Hey.
Hi.
Our question is, so we're in Chicago and we obviously don't have elephants over here. So how are we able to help and support the elephants from this side of the world?
Oh,
Good question.
beautiful question. I always say, first of all, learn about the threats and what's happening in the elephant world, because you need to be informed to then, better help. So learn a lot and share in your stage. You can really share what you learn, and with your parents, with your neighbors, and everything. But then you, as a whole, as a community or family or group, you can decide to support certain projects that are really working in the ground, in the field, to help protect both elephants and people. So first of all, learn a lot, learn true facts, share those facts, because the more people know about threats, there's less demand, such as for ivory and other things that really hurt elephants and their habitats. And then you support, so we keep going, we keep doing the work in the ground. Thank you.
I love this answer, and it's so important. Just by talking about what you learned today with family and friends, you are making a positive difference. But I will note, in our history, Dominique, our classes have raised, I think, $15,000 for conservation projects around the world. So if kids are ever keen, they want to support an amazing project, and learn from someone like you about some great stuff going on, you're always welcome to do a drive, to do a fundraiser. That really does make a hugely positive difference. You don't need to do it, but it's a great thing, and there's some really cool projects we may have talked about today. I'm going to head to Mr. Hancock's class, and then Miss Hurley, I'm coming to you right after. Come on in Georgetown, folks.
Hey, everybody. We got some questions. So it depends on easily the most questions I've gotten in a while. Several students were curious about the lifespan of the elephants, as well as the sleep habits.
Ooh. Wow, sleep patterns. Okay, lifespan. It is said that the longest lived elephant in captivity in a zoo apparently went up to 60 years and so, and that was quite a unique thing, especially in a zoo. But in the field, I think it's very, very similar because we have one. I haven't seen her for a while, but I want to believe she's still alive, and she was 65, very old matriarch, and but they can live. They have a huge lifespan. They can live many, many years. And the second was about sleeping patterns. Very interesting. So elephants can sleep whenever they want. Sometimes standing, resting their head, sometimes when they're way more comfortable and feeling safe, even in the ground. So sometimes the mothers are up but the babies are sleeping, or vice versa. So it's not like it's nighttime, time to bed, it's daytime, time to play. No, elephants can actually, sometimes it's too hot and they will take a nap and rest, and they move more at night, or vice versa. So yeah.
What a cool question. I don't think we've ever had that one before. Thank you, Mr. Hancock. Miss Hurley, London, if you guys want to unmute your mic and come on in Ontario, just go for it. And then YouTubers, there's so many on YouTube. I'm going to take questions from you. Yeah. Miss Hurley, you are in. I know your camera's off, but if you want it, there you are. Hi.
Hi, Jesse. Sorry, we're having some issues with our camera. It's not working, but Easton is here with the question.
Perfect.
How do elephants breathe, and do they have teeth?
Ooh.
How do the elephants breed? I mean, breeding.
Yeah.
You saw the trunk. So the trunk is his long nose, and then ends with these two kind of tips that is more like two fingers. With that trunk, that muscle has about 200 nerves, just that trunk, and that is from where they breed. And this time in this presentation, I did not include the breeding video where they're snoring, basically, because you'd be able to see it. But that's where their nostrils are, and then the two little fingers is they actually can use it to pick grass, or the most tiny thing they can. So this is how they breed, with their long proboscis, long trunk. The second question was that
teeth. Do they have teeth?
Oh, of course, yes. So the tusks, they are incisors. There's these teeth we have, but for elephants, they're really long. They evolve different. They're really long and out and beautiful, right? And with the tusks, they use not only to debark trees that they eat, and also to dig holes for water, but males, for example, they use that in fights over females, or playing, or anything they want to do. And that's also the problem, because it's the valuable thing, and the humans and people want their tusks. But besides the tusks, they have these sets of teeth that grows about 3 times, if I'm not wrong. Yeah, it comes 3 times. So how did they chew? For example, they don't do like us, the up and down. No, they grind it like this. So as the elephant grows, the teeth kind of runs off. So the other set comes, and again, other set comes. And when the last one comes and they're very old, it doesn't come again. So that's it. That's the end for the elephant. But that's, yeah, their teeth.
Just like us, you got to take care of your teeth in life to make sure
Yeah.
you brush. You got I'm going to take a couple from YouTube, and then we're going to do a second round. Because Dominique, you're so fast at answering questions. I love this. Tom Thompson Public School, Miss Young's first class. They want to know why do elephants need their tusks, and can they live without them? So I like these as a back-to-back questions.
Why do elephants need their tusks? Well, they need the tusk because, as I said, tusks are very, very important for elephant, for their diet, for their behavior, for their reproduction system, or not system, but their reproduction process, I would say. So for their diet, they dig roots from the trees. The bark of the trees as well is using tusks. And, you know, if they want to dig or protect their infants, they use their tusks. So we do have tuskless females. You'd ask, what about ones who doesn't have it? Yeah, that's a very, very good question, because we're also trying to find out if the diet of elephants without tusks is different from the diet of elephants with tusks. You know, we're still trying to find out in terms of behavior if they actually behave different. But I would say that the most fierce is like females that have been chased me with tuskless. They have short temperament, definitely. So it's very, very important, because it's part of them. So why would they not keep it or have it? You know, why do we need our teeth? And why should we keep our teeth?
Ears or nose or anything
or
else.
ears or nose or anything else. Not only, even if you don't think that there's something so obvious that we use them for, but they're also part of us. So it makes us what we are, having it.
Yep. I'm so glad we got that question. Thank you for that. And by the way, this is a call for you students. If you become a scientist, you can be chased by angry elephants. That can be something that happens to you after your helicopter ride. Very exciting. Miss Williams' class, I'm going to take you guys on YouTube, and then we're going to go back to Mr. Shattuck and do a second round. How do you find the elephants that you end up collaring?
That's a great question. So now I would say now it's easier. But when I first had to do it for the first time, I did spend a lot of time driving around and tracking, looking at the roads, looking at the fingerprints or footprints, look at the dung, look at the signs in the trees, like branches and so on, listening if I would hear a rumble or anything. And sometimes I would bump into them out of nowhere, and of course I would be chased, but then I would mark that point, like I saw this group there. So when we decided to start coloring, that's why as well we use an helicopter, because Gorongosa, different from certain parts in Kenya or Tanzania, it's not so open. I know that certain parts you go and you see from far, you can say, oh, elephants are right there, and you go to them. Not in Gorongosa, the vegetation is it changes so much in each corner that you can barely see it. Sometimes you just bump into it. And so we take a chopper and we fly around, and from the top, you think that it's so easy to spot elephants. Not always easy as well. They can, as big as they are, they can hide really, really well. And when they're hiding, then under the trees and everything is hard, and they color. But then this is how I spot them. And if depending who I want to color, for what purpose, if I'm looking at different dynamics between different groups of females, for example, I might look for lead females. In these studies we're doing now, that we look at difference between females with tusks and without tusks, I might choose one that has tusks, another one that it doesn't, so we then can compare. Or if I'm looking at the troublemakers for conflict and coexistence with communities around the park, I might actually go out of the park or the border of the park in certain times of the day that I know that they're getting ready to cross and go to the community, and then I find them there and mark that point, and next day I go back and I catch them. So it's fun, but it takes a lot of planning.
I think I have the best job in the world every time until I hang out with you, and then it's clearly second. But I like that you get the troublemaking elephants. That's very important to get them. let's head to our 4 classes. I know some of our classes have to go, so we're going to try and get 4 questions in as quick as we can. Mr. Shattuck, we'll head to you guys first. Come on in Deep River. Hey.
What made you want to work with elephants?
Yes,
Oh,
I do.
opportunity. That's all I can say. I have to say, I've never said, oh, since I was young, I loved elephants or dreamed of this and that. No, I didn't have that. I didn't have I wasn't always watching elephants or anything on TV or anything, but I always loved biology. And then I started studying biology and I decided to study ecology. And at the time, I wanted to study carnivores, lions. They're also very cool and everything. But it didn't work out to go to the field to study them at that time. So I did many other things. I studied birds as well in the field. But then there was one day that this lady, she came and she said, I really wanted to meet you and I'm really looking for someone to teach or learn about elephants. Would you like to? And that was my opportunity. And I said, yes, of course. And since then, boom, I dove into it. And now I'm just finishing a PhD in elephant ecology. Is how it worked.
Well, and I want to stress, even if you didn't finish the PhD, even if you never started the PhD, you've done so much for elephant conservation. I highlighted to our kids in advance, like you are one of the most lauded conservationists featured in more places than anyone in the world. Well deserved for all the incredible diverse work that you do. So a big thank you for that. Let's head to New York, Miss Collins. We're going to head to Jim's after that, and Miss Hurley to wrap up, and then we're going to all say farewell together. But come on in, Miss Collins and darling. Hi.
Hi.
When you take the blood away from the elephants, and if they're sick, then what do you do when the elephants are sick?
Great question.
That's a great question. To be honest with you, we haven't yet the capacity to see if there's disease in the blood. When we take the blood, has been so far mostly for genetic purposes. So we can see, for example, in the study we were doing about taskless, was thanks to the blood samples that we could see that, so the fact that some don't have tusks is actually linked to a gene in the body that is actually linked to the females. Yeah. So it's linked to the sex, which means that only females shows or grows without tusks. But males, if they have that gene, then they don't show up. So we don't really know if they die, when, in the embryo stage, or if they even, if anything really happens. So yeah. I haven't yet looked into in terms of disease, but with blood, you can also look at level of stress hormones, which is very, very useful, especially in conflict and coexistence, because knowing if this elephant is very calm, less stress inside the park, but super stressed outside the park might say something about the area in general. So yeah, that's perhaps will be a next step to look in terms of disease. And yeah, I'll have all these blood samples still there if one day you want to study, elephant genetic diseases. I'll have
that student could be the person that does that. And then if you find that they're sick, you could be the person that heals them. I mean, you're in grade 5 now. You're not too far off from having.
I'll keep those samples for sure. They're still there.
We're going to head to Gems World Academy. What a great question. And then we'll wrap up with Miss Hurley in a minute. Chicago, take us away, folks.
Hi.
My question was, why is there such a high demand for ivory and leather from elephants?
Big question.
Why? Sorry, can you repeat why?
Yeah. It was, why is there such a high demand for ivory and leather and products from elephants?
What a question. Great. It is very culturally driven. Certain cultures in the world really believe in not just purifying, but healing properties of ivory and, either from elephants and rhinoceros and other species, and also the leather or skin. For example, in Asia now, some parts, elephants also being targeted for the skin. So people do believe that there's medicinal properties that would cure, do amazing stuff. And with ivory as well, it's been just a high commodity thing since historical times. Ivory was always high level, high value. sometimes even more than gold, to be honest. And it was always something about status and people who, because it was so hard to find this amazing animal and kill it, so difficult to kill it, and then people take the ivory and carve it in beautiful things and it will become a status thing. So whoever had that meant a lot for the society or this and that. So it is really, really driven around humanity's greediness, what we perceive as being the high value of nature for us and what nature can be for us. But there's no value of ivory if it's not in an elephant, basically.
Yeah. And this has been one of the big things in the conservation movement generally, is highlighting the fact that these animals are worth way more alive, both inherently because they're such incredible creatures, but also because so many people want to see them and engage with them and come to these amazing places to be around animals like this. And that's been really exciting to see over the last few decades, is the big shift in a lot of places to account for that. So it's a big topic. It's a huge question. And I'm really glad we got it during the broadcast. Thanks, Dominique. Ms. Hurley, we're going to wrap up with you. I know we could go all day. We've got more questions than we could possibly take during one broadcast, but London, Ontario, take us away and we'll wrap up after that. Hey, guys.
Is there anything we can do as students to stop the ivory trade or hunting of elephants?
Wow, I need some help from teachers here. As I think it really goes back to what I answered before, as students and, young students and everything, I think we, as humanity, as all human population, we need a behavior change. We need a shift from what we thought was the acceptable or what we thought was the most important thing in nature and how we value nature. Right? Nature has way more value than just in what represents in our status or money in our pockets and etc. And it does so much for us. Without certain species such as elephants, all the things that we are dealing now will be even more exacerbated, such as climate change, because there will be no forests maintained in certain parts of the world. So goes into that awful domino effect. As students, as I said, let's learn a lot about all this ivory and elephant world around us, and then let's educate people around us and really challenge the people that still have that thinking and behavior, to old kind of thinking of behavior or perception of what ivory or elephants means to people. And then we start making that behavior change. I think it's going to be it's being a generational thing where even people from older age are now realizing, that things are not the same as they were before. So we need to adapt, we need to evolve, we need to change. We have way less elephants now. So we can't keep living as we were in, 100 years ago or anything, not only with elephants, but when many species. So as students, we need to keep growing this knowledge, this curiosity in terms of what's happening in our natural world and challenge behavior change from everyone.
Dominique, that is a beautiful answer. Thank you so much. Our class has had such a treat hanging out with you today. A big thank you to taking time out to do this with us again. Hundreds of kids around the world got a chance to hear from you today, and it's been such a special opportunity. As you know, what we do to wrap up every broadcast is I'm going to bring in our classes to say a big thank you to Durrell in a minute. But I do want to highlight again the Elephant Ecology Project. I will link this to all our classes if you want to follow up and learn more, even more elephant stuff. And I will make a Kahoot quiz for all our classes as well to keep learning going. But I'm going to bring in Ms. Hurley's class, Mr. Shadid's class, Ms. Collins, Ms. Darling. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a wonderful day. Bye for now.
Thank you. Thank you.